Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa looked at a man seeking freedom from his past and said something that seemed to make no sense. "You're asking the wrong question." But what was the right one? The man had come carrying a weight he could not name. He had performed rituals, he had fasted, he had given offerings, he had memorized verses, but the burden remained. He asked, "Will I ever be free of what I have done? Can karma be broken? Every mistake follows me, every wrong choice returns. I carry the weight of my past in every breath. Can this burden ever end?" Ramakrishna looked at him for a long moment. Then he said it again. "You are asking the wrong question." Not with harshness, not with dismissal, but with the precision of a surgeon, identifying exactly where the wound begins. Ramakrishna paused. His stillness seemed to deepen the space. Then he asked, "Before we speak of breaking karma, tell me who is bound by it." The man did not understand. He said, "I am bound. My past actions follow me. My debts accumulate. My patterns repeat. I cannot escape what I have done." Ramakrishna asked, "Who is this I that you speak of?" The man pointed to his chest. "This body, this mind, this person who sits before you." Ramakrishna started explaining. "Then let us examine this carefully." He asked, "When you were 5 years old, did you have the same body you have now?" The man said, "No, that body was small. This body is grown." "When you were 10 years old, did you have the same thoughts you have now?" "No, those thoughts were different." "When you were 20, did you have the same desires, the same fears, the same understanding?" "No, all of that has changed." Ramakrishna leaned forward. "Then tell me, if the body has changed, if the thoughts have changed, if the desires have changed, what is it in you that remembers all these changes?" The man became quiet. Ramakrishna continued, "The body you call I has died and been reborn countless times in this one lifetime. Cells replace themselves, blood renews, bones rebuild. The body of your childhood is gone, yet you remember that childhood. You remember that body. You remember those thoughts." He paused. "So who is remembering?" The man said, "My mind remembers." Ramakrishna said, "But the mind also changes. In childhood, the mind was simple. In youth, it was restless. Now it seeks peace. Thoughts come and go like clouds across the sky. Emotions rise and fall like waves on the ocean. The mind you had yesterday is not the mind you have today." He asked again, "So who is aware of the mind changing?" The man struggled to answer. Ramakrishna said, "There is something in you that has witnessed every change. Something that observed the small body and observes the grown body. Something that watched the restless mind and watches the seeking mind. Something that remains constant while everything else transforms." The man felt something shift inside him, a recognition he could not yet name. Ramakrishna said, "That witnessing presence is what you truly are. Not the body that changes, not the mind that fluctuates, not the person who accumulates karma. You are the awareness in which all of this appears." He gave an example. "Look at a white wall. You can cast shadows upon it. You can mark it with dust. You can paint images upon it. Light and darkness move across it. But the wall itself is never changed by any of it. The wall does not accumulate the marks. The wall does not carry the paintings. When you wash it clean, the wall remains white." The man listened closely. "You are like that wall. The body is a shadow appearing on you. The mind is a picture forming in you. Karma is the mark that seems to stain you. But you, the awareness, are never touched by any of it." Ramakrishna said, "The cage you feel is not around you. The cage is the belief that you are the picture instead of the wall. The man sat with this understanding, but doubt crept in. He said, "I hear your words. The wall analogy makes sense, but when I leave here, I will still feel like the one making choices. When I speak harshly to someone, guilt will come. When I help someone, pride will rise. These feelings are real. How can I be just awareness when I experience being the doer so strongly?" Ramakrishna became very still. He said, "Now you ask the real question. Not the question your mind prepared, the question your confusion actually holds." He continued, "You say these feelings are real, but watch what happens when you sleep deeply. Where is the doer then? Where is the guilt? Where is the pride?" The man hesitated. "They disappear." If the doer disappears every night, how real is it? If guilt vanishes in sleep, how solid is it? These are movements in the mind. They come and go, but you remain. Ramakrishna asked, "Right now, as we speak, are you breathing?" "Yes." "Did you decide to breathe? Are you controlling each breath?" "No, it happens on its own." "Your heart beats. Did you command it this morning?" "Your food digests. Did you instruct your stomach?" "Your blood flows. Did you direct it?" The man shook his head. "Then where is this doer you believe yourself to be? The body functions without your permission. Life moves through you without asking." He said, "Even your thoughts. Did you choose the thought that just arose in your mind? Or did it simply appear? Watch closely. Thoughts come like birds landing in a tree. You do not summon them. They arrive." The man closed his eyes. He watched. A thought appeared. He had not called it. It simply arose. Ramakrishna said, "The mind claims ownership after the fact. A thought appears, and immediately the mind says, 'I thought this.' An action happens through the body, and the mind says, 'I did this.' But the claiming happens after. The doer is an afterthought." He gave another example. The sun rises, light spreads, plants grow, rivers flow. All of this happens without a separate doer orchestrating it. It is simply the nature of existence unfolding. In the same way, life moves through this body-mind. Actions arise, words are spoken, choices seem to happen. But where is the separate entity controlling it all? The man said, "But I feel responsible. When I harm someone, the weight is mine to carry." Ramakrishna's presence became still. When you dream at night, you harm someone in the dream. You feel guilt in the dream. But when you wake, do you carry that guilt? Do you seek forgiveness from the dream character? No, it was just a dream. Just so. When you recognize yourself as awareness, you see that the person who accumulated karma was a character in a waking dream. The karma was part of the dream. It never touched the dreamer. He said softly, "The one who thinks I am the doer accumulates karma. The one who sees I am the witness becomes free. Not by breaking karma, but by seeing that karma was only ever binding an illusion." The man felt the ground shifting beneath him. Not the physical ground, something deeper. He said, "If I am not the doer, if karma only binds an illusion, then what am I actually?" Ramakrishna looked at him with complete stillness. "Now we arrive at the truth that cannot be spoken, but I will try." He said, "Every night when you sleep deeply, where do you go?" The man thought, "I don't know. There is nothing there." Exactly. In deep sleep, the body disappears from your experience. The mind stops. The world vanishes. Even the sense of being a person dissolves. You don't know your name. You don't remember your problems. You don't feel your karma. He continued. Yet when you wake, you say, I slept well. You remember that you existed during sleep, even though you experienced nothing. So what remained? The man could not answer. Ramakrishna said, pure awareness remained. Awareness without objects. Awareness without thoughts. Awareness without the burden of being someone. He explained, in waking, awareness knows the body. In dreams, awareness knows the dream world. In deep sleep, awareness rests in itself, knowing nothing but remaining present. The man said, but in deep sleep I am unconscious. Ramakrishna smiled gently. The mind is unconscious, but you, the awareness, continue. Otherwise, who would know that sleep happened? A truly unconscious thing cannot report its own unconsciousness. The fact that you remember sleeping proves awareness was there. He gave an example. A gold ornament can be melted. When it melts, the ring form disappears, but the gold remains. The gold was never actually the ring. The ring was just a temporary shape the gold took. In the same way, in deep sleep, all forms dissolve. The body form, the mind form, the person form. But you, the pure awareness, remain. You were never actually those forms. They were temporary shapes appearing in you. The man felt something vast opening inside him. Ramakrishna continued, this is what you truly are. Not the waking person, not the dreaming person, not even the sleeping person. You are the awareness that witnesses all three states without being touched by any of them. He said, karma operates in the waking and dream states. It creates patterns in the mind. It generates consequences in the world of form. But in deep sleep, where is karma? The man understood. It dissolves. Yes, every night you return to your true nature, free of all karma, free of all identity, free of all burden. The problem is not karma. The problem is that you keep waking up and believing you are the person again. Ramakrishna leaned forward. But what if you remained as awareness even while awake? What if you saw the body-mind acting but knew you were not the actor? What if you witnessed karma arising but understood it was only appearing in you, never touching you? He said, then karma would be like riding on water. The moment the action appears, it dissolves. No accumulation, no binding, no cage. The man sat in silence, not the silence of confusion, the silence of recognition. Ramakrishna became completely still, not the stillness of pause, the stillness of completion. The man wanted to ask more. His mind reached for another question, another clarification, another method to grasp what had been shown. But before he could speak, Ramakrishna raised a hand gently. Stop. The word was not harsh. It was an invitation. You have heard enough words. Now you must see directly. The man waited. Ramakrishna said, close your eyes, not to meditate, not to concentrate, simply close them. The man closed his eyes. Now tell me, right now in this moment, are you aware? Yes. Good. Now notice that awareness does not need thoughts to exist. Thoughts may come and go, but the awareness remains whether thoughts are present or not. The man noticed this. Thoughts floated by, but something was watching the thoughts. That something did not depend on the thoughts to be present. Now notice that awareness does not need the body to exist. You feel sensations in the body, but awareness is what knows those sensations. The sensations appear in awareness. They are not awareness itself. The man felt his breathing. He felt the weight of his body sitting. But he noticed something was aware of all this. The awareness was not the sensations. It was what registered them. Now notice that awareness does not need you to be anyone. Right now, without opening your eyes, without thinking about your name or your history or your problems, you still exist as awareness. Pure presence, nothing added. The man felt something drop away. The constant commentary. The endless story of who he was and what he had done. For a moment, there was just awareness. Simple, clear, untouched. Ramakrishna said quietly, "This is what you are. Not the story, not the history, not the karma. Just this. Pure awareness. Always here. Never moving, never bound." The man sat in that recognition. Minutes passed, or maybe no time passed at all. When he finally opened his eyes, something had fundamentally changed. Not that he had gained something new, but that he had stopped believing something false. He looked at Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna looked back with complete understanding. The man said, "There is no one to be freed." Ramakrishna nodded slowly. There never was. The teaching was complete. Not because every question had been answered, but because the questioner had been seen through. The man who had arrived carrying a weight he could not name now saw that the weight had always been carried by a phantom. The one who thought himself bound had never existed except as a belief, and beliefs dissolve when seen clearly. He sat there, not in the bliss of achievement, not in the excitement of discovery, but in the simple recognition of what had always been true. The body would continue, thoughts would still arise, actions would still unfold through this form. But the claim of ownership had ended. The belief in a separate doer had dissolved. What remained was just awareness, witnessing everything, touched by nothing. Free, not because it had escaped bondage, but because it had never been bound. Ramakrishna finally spoke again. Karma operates only in the dream of separation. When you know yourself as awareness, karma continues to play out in the world of form, but you remain untouched. The wave crashes, but you are the ocean. The man stood to leave, but he was not the same man who had arrived. The weight you carry is not yours to carry. The person who accumulated karma was never real, only a character appearing in your awareness. And now you see it. That seeing is your freedom. Not freedom from something, but the recognition that you were never bound in the first place. The body will continue to act. Thoughts will still arise. Consequences will still unfold. Patterns will still repeat in the world of form. But the claim of ownership has ended. The belief in a separate doer has dissolved. And what remains, the awareness itself, needs no liberation because what remains has never been imprisoned. This is what Ramakrishna showed you, not as a belief to adopt, but as something you can notice directly, right now, in this very moment. Simply watch. Are you aware? Can you feel it? Then you already are what you have always been. The one asking for freedom is the very thing that was never free to begin with. And the one aware of that question, that witnessing presence, was never bound.